For 30 seconds, you are just going to breathe. That is all you are going to do. Don't worry about the thoughts that come in and out of your mind. Just breathe. And I want you to feel the breath, okay? Just feel it. 30 seconds. Ready and go. All right, come on back. Ah, yeah, you feel that breath, don't you? Now, how often do you think about that breath coming to a dead stop? How often do you think about that? How often do you think about the time when you no longer breathe? Yes. Are you here to experience life, or are you here to experience death? Which one is it? Okay, so you are here to have a human experience. And that human experience involves your breath, being in the body that you have right now, and being here on the earth. And it's inevitable that you will transition from this body back to the form in which you came from. Okay. So why focus so much on the transition? Why focus so much on death? Why not make this human experience the best human experience you can possibly have? Do everything in your power to create the best human experience. Imagine if everyone thought about this. What do you think is the common thought for someone in their 60s, 70s, and 80s? Time is running out. Time is running out. I'm not going to be here for very long, so let me just prepare. Why is that? Why do people prepare for their transition? They expect it to come soon when they get into their late 50s, 60s, 70s. We have the whole life expectancy number. People are living on average to about the late 70s, 80s, roughly. There's some people getting into their 90s, and then you have those anomalies, people getting up to 100, a little bit past 100. Maybe someone at that point. But here's the thing. Imagine if everyone planned to be around past 100. Now, some people don't want to be. Some people do not want to live beyond that point because perhaps they're afraid of seeing something that they don't want to see. Or maybe it's because of the human experience deteriorating at that point. Because when you think of old age, you think of the body deteriorating, okay? You think of your physical abilities going away. But if your physical abilities were still intact, if you were able to function the way you did at age 35, but you're just 102, would you want to stick around? Is it connected to just the body's development? Is that what it is? Or is it the things around you? The things that you will watch go away? The things that you love to do that will no longer exist? And the new things that'll come that you fear? Or maybe you're just afraid of change. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But it's the experience of being a human that is so connected to mortality. What if we change the narrative? Are any of you curious about that? What if we as a collective changed the narrative? Because if you notice, you watch commercials, you watch movies, And what's the general thought about people who age? Oh, they're old. Oh, they're useless. Oh, you're old. You're part of that old thing. Yeah, we don't need that here. It's a young person's game. Yeah, young, fruitful. Yeah, sprick and spry, the frisky cat. Yeah, we don't need the old stuff. Now, once upon a time, that wasn't the case. I would say before 2000, we had more respect for the elder than we do today in 2020. In 2020, the new thing says that old people are useless. Yeah, get them out of here. Right? Why is that? There's so many stories that you can pull from someone in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. There's stories, there's information, there's wisdom that you can pull from these people. So if you know people that are at that point, why aren't you pulling from them? Why aren't you talking to them? Why aren't you getting knowledge from them? Is it just because they're getting old physically? If they looked like you, youngster, if that person that's 95 looked like a person that was 32, would you have more respect for them then? Maybe we can change the narrative. Because it is interesting. The death chase. My friends, I do not chase death. In 2016, my aunt on my mother's side transitioned. And on the morning of that transition, my grandmother and I went up to the house and, took turns going into the room. Her body was lying in bed. And I remember going into the bedroom and standing there at the edge of the bed looking at my aunt. And I looked at her body and I said, wow, here is the body of a woman I knew. And her body no longer moves, no longer breathes. The energy that was inside of this body is gone. It could be floating in the space that I'm in. It could be floating somewhere else. There are no limitations to the energy that used to be inside of this body that lies here in front of me. And I stood there for at least, it felt like I stood there for 30 minutes, but it was probably about 15 to 20 minutes. I was breathing and taking in the experience of seeing the difference between a body with energy in it and a body with no energy in it. And it really taught me, it really emphasized to me the importance of embracing the inner being, the energy that is contained inside of the body. It emphasized that point in 2016. And I had just turned 40. And so as I've pushed forward, it has really brought forth the ideas of being present in the human experience. It has brought forth the ideas of, for every conversation I have with a friend or family member, whatever it is that I do, be present. And I do have an episode that speaks to this. You can look for that, or maybe I'll put it at the end. But going back to this idea of chasing death, the bucket list. Let me hurry up and do these things before I die. Let me hurry up and do these things before I die. Let me hurry up and do these things before I die. This is the repetitive talk, the commercials, the movies. It constantly reminds you of transition. You are reminded that, hey, you are going to end physically. Plan for it. Imagine if everyone decided to say, you know what? No. How would you live your life if you knew that you were going to get to 100? If you knew. Because there's always the question of, if this was the last day of your life, if you only had 1 week to live, how would you live your life? Well, you would do everything that you probably thought you couldn't do, right? You would really do things, okay? But let's go the other way. What if you knew you were going to get to 115? How would you live your life? If you knew that you were going to get to 200, how would you live your life? Would you feel the same way about the things that you didn't accomplish? Because, of course, if there are certain things that you have always wanted to accomplish, but you never did, then you enter into regret and resentment when you get to your 50s, 60s, and 70s, because you're like, well, I've only got about 25 to 30 years left. So, man, too bad I can't do that thing I've always wanted to do because I've only got 25 years left. But if you knew that you had 50 to 60 years left, then what? Would you have regrets? Would you? If you knew that you had another 60 to 70 years, would you attempt to do the things that you've always wanted to do? And imagine if you had another 60 to 70 years and you knew that those 60 to 70 years you would be just as sprick and spry as you were in your 30s or 20s. How would you live then? You know what? You can. Now, of course, there's the physical ailments. A little bit of a challenge there. But if you do not have physical ailments, if you are able to walk and function, your body is there, what if you were to reroute your mindset? Let's try this. Reroute the mindset. Don't chase death. To see what it would be like if the general population, the general consensus was, oh, I'll be around. How much power would be given to that idea? Because, of course, whatever you focus on the most becomes the experience. I mean, of course, this is all a part of discussions and questions and curiosities, but for all of you youngsters, if you know anyone who is older than you, get the knowledge, get the wisdom, ask them questions. Or if you're in your 20s and that person is in their 40s and 50s, talk to them. See what life was before. Sure, you have the internet, you have your phone, you have that tool in your hand that you rely on to get this information from. But you know what? Sometimes it's nice to get the stories from the people who were actually there. The people who lived it. The people who experienced life before the internet. And then take that wisdom, add it to your life, and see how it works. And perhaps you can change some narratives. You can flip the switch. You see this person in front of you who is in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and of course they're thinking in the general idea of, well, let me plan for the end. You know, maybe you can flip it. Maybe you will plan for 114. Maybe that will become the general idea. And next thing you know, we'll have people living to 150. Building stuff, still. Working out, still. Having physical prowess, still. 115, moving like a 30-year-old. 96, moving like a 38-year-old. 88, moving like someone who's 19. This is possible.